today's story is about a duende, and I can assure you I have never read a story like this. But before that, I got a package in my PO box from Sandria. I hope I'm not mispronouncing that. I think it's Sandria or Sandria. Why am I so dumb? I'm putting your name up here. Thank you so much. Let me show you what she got me. So I do already have these, but I have 3 pairs now. 2 blues, 1 brown, and guess who pierced her ears to have extra holes? Me, bitch. Maybe I'll have to do a look with like all eyeballs, like just hanging. These are the other pair, and I don't think the problem with my earlobe is that it's so wanga loose, like the bitch has a mind of its own. I don't think these earrings would stay up on me. See, or am I doing it wrong? What am I doing wrong? How do you put these on? But they're so cute. These are my favorite. What the heck? Beetlejuice. Anyway, you guys spoil me so much. Thank you so much for even sending me anything to my PO box. I really appreciate it. So this story was told to this girl by her grandmother, and this happened to her grandmother when she was really, really young. So yes, this is an old story, but it's a good story, but a sad story, but a good one, but a sad one, but a good one, but a sad one, but a good one, but a sad one. So when this girl's grandmother was a child, she had this uncle named Seferino who she thought was really, really weird. And the older Uncle Seferino would get, the stranger he became. She would sometimes find him talking to himself. She would sometimes see him talking to the forest. So yeah, she thought he was really weird. It was very rare that her uncle would talk about his childhood or where they lived, but it was in Zacatecas. Her grandmother does remember going to that place as a child, but basically saying that the entire place was abandoned, it was old, it was falling apart, and nobody really lived there anymore. So it was her grandmother's birthday again. She is a child at the time, and they threw her a birthday party, but she noticed how Tio Seferino wasn't really involved. She saw him sitting by himself, and she went up to him just to keep him company, and that's when Tio Seferino admitted to her that birthdays really made him sad. She explains how Tio Seferino looked around, just making sure nobody was listening to him, and he decided to explain to her why birthdays made him sad. When he was a young boy, he had a sister named Clarita. He shared a bedroom with his sister, and there was one night where he woke up because he heard his sister talking to somebody, but he couldn't see who she was talking to because it was dark in the room. At the time, he had a bed and she slept on a floor like on a mat. He laid there, he couldn't go back to sleep, and he explains how he just wanted to stay very still and quiet just to hear who the heck she was talking to. After a while, he admits that he started to hear a couple of voices talking back to his sister. He got very curious, and after that night, it was like his mission to get up in the middle of the night just to hear who his sister was talking to, and every night he would hear people talking to his sister and her talking to them back. So in Mexico, sometimes the houses do not have restrooms inside of the house. They have them outside, and it's basically just a hole. So on one particular night where he was spying on her yet again, he noticed that she left outside of the window and was walking towards the direction of the restroom outside. Obviously, he was very curious, and he also got out through the window and kind of stayed at a distance from her, but he could still see her. As he's watching her, he's noticing that she didn't enter the restroom, that she actually went straight towards the forest. That is where he knew that something really strange was going on. That is where he sees them. He sees that his sister is surrounded by little duendes. He said they looked like they were little dolls. They were dressed in old-timey clothing, and that he can see them smiling at his sister. He could clearly see when his sister was offering these duendes flowers and sweetbread and toys, and the duendes were accepting those gifts. When Tio Seferino sees this, obviously he's a kid. He is very scared, so he runs back home, crawls in through the window, and goes back into bed and covers himself from head to toe, very scared at what he had just witnessed. A few days after he witnessed this, he says that his sister came up to him and told him, "Hey, you're not gonna see me anymore. You're not gonna see me for a long time. I don't want you to tell anybody, and I also don't want you to cry when I'm not here. You just have to believe that one day you're gonna see me again, okay? Even though it's gonna seem like it's gonna be a long time, you will see me again one day." That same night, Uncle Seferino sees Clarita go through the window, go into the forest, and he never saw her again. That was also the reason why his family left that town, abandoned that town. They couldn't stand living there because they don't know where their daughter went or who kidnapped her or where she could be, and they were just all really sad and couldn't stand living there anymore. But Uncle Seferino still had that promise that his sister told him that they would be seeing each other again. Uncle Seferino was really sad that his family decided to abandon that place because he thought, what if she comes back? What if the duendes bring her back and they see that the house house is abandoned and they just decided to take her back to the forest and not leave her there. Like, he was so worried because he knew the promise that his sister made to him, and he didn't want to leave because he wanted his sister to come back, and he was scared that she was gonna see that maybe they abandoned her. So this is the story that he told the girl's grandmother on her birthday, and the grandmother said that he just started crying and he wouldn't stop. I mean, can you believe this? Like, years have passed, because obviously Tio Seferino is an adult now telling this little girl the story about his sister, and it's eating him up inside, very obviously. She says that after telling her the story, he just got up crying and he decided to take a little walk around and just catch some air. She admits that after that, she could see that he was always sad, and that's why he's always been very strange and very weird to her, because there was just something eating him up inside that as a child she couldn't see until he told her that story. One day they were trying to look for Tio Seferino, but he was not in his bedroom. They were worried because they couldn't find him. He was already older, so they were like, where could he have gone? He's not in his room. So they decided to go in town and ask if anybody had seen him. Somebody in town did admit that they saw him and that he was asking for a ride back home to Zacatecas, where that abandoned house is. The family decided to get into the cars and go all the way to Zacatecas to go and find him. They didn't see him. They couldn't find him when they got there, but there was really fresh footprints on the dirt that led up to the forest in his old abandoned house. No one had been there for a very long time, so everybody knew that it has to be Tio Seferino. It was only then where the grandmother's little brother at the time came up to his family and told them that the last time they were there, he saw Tio Seferino talking to the forest and laughing, but like, he didn't see anybody there. He just heard him laughing and talking. The family did go into the forest to try to look for Tio Seferino, and unfortunately, he was never found again. And like I said, the grandmother is now an older lady. She has grandchildren, and Tio Seferino was never ever found again. Like I said, this story is kind of sad, but my only hope is that maybe he is with his sister. Maybe he went to be with his sister. Maybe they reunited and she kept her promise. But what do you guys think? I'm gonna tell you the story about the one and only time I got in a car accident, and it's because of what happened. I just need your opinion. Me and my mom experienced this, and we talk about it from time to time because we just don't know what to make of this. So I'm 35 right now, and this happened when I was probably around 23. I was traveling from Austin to the Valley, which is South Texas. I had the habit where if I traveled, I would leave Austin like around 3 in the morning so that I can get to my mom's house like around 9 in the morning. I was driving alone. I had a 90s Mustang, and my phone fell to the floor of the passenger side. Do as I say, not as I do, okay? Don't grab your phone if it falls. Lesson learned. Actually, don't even fuck with your phone, period. Okay, just don't do it. My dumbass decided to reach for my phone, and when I did, I guess I turned the wheel and a bitch started spinning. There was like barbed wire that separated the street from going this way and the other one from going that way. So as I'm spinning, I'm hitting all that barbed wire. Like, I'm thinking I'm definitely gonna die. I'm thinking, why the fuck hasn't this car stopped spinning? I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I'm about to die in the middle of fucking nowhere. And that's also when I realized that I had my car on cruise control, which is why I kept spinning. It's not funny, but kind of funny, but not funny. So why, don't laugh at me. I don't know how I made it out of there without a bruise, without a scratch, without nothing, okay? Somehow, when I realized that I was on cruise control, I hit the brake. My car was still spinning, but managed to get back on the road as if I hadn't just gone in circles 1,000 times. That's not the thing though, but that was also weird. Like, my guardian angel tired of me. So again, somehow I just made it back on the road as if nothing had just happened, but one of my tires was slashed from that barbed wire. I managed to still move my car to the other side of the road where you're supposed to like get to the side, and I called my mom. I did have a spare tire in the back. I just didn't have anything to like switch it out with, and honestly, I didn't even know how to do that. So obviously I waited for my mom there. She finally got to me. She had everything that we needed, and it was just us about to change the tire. I didn't know what I was doing. My mom, she knows what she's doing, but there was one of the is it called a bolt or a nut or something? It was so tight we could not get it off. Like, we tried everything to get it off because you need to in order to put the spare tire on. So we're struggling and struggling. There's nobody there. It's like, I don't know if you guys ever travel through there. It's like 20 minutes before getting to Mathis, which Mathis in itself is like middle of nowhere too. Out of nowhere, mind you, we did not hear anything. We didn't hear anything. We would have heard it. It is like nothingness out there, okay? We're trying to change that tire. This guy pops out of nowhere, equipment in hand, takes that bolt off that was really tight, doing everything. And me and my mom were like, oh my gosh, thank you. Like, thank you. Do you want money? He's not talking to us. Like, he wouldn't say anything to us. He wasn't saying yes, he wasn't saying no. He was just switching out the tire to put the spare on. He did that, put everything back, even put the bad tire in the back of my car. And we were like, do you want money? Thank you so much. And he did not speak to us. In my head, I can't even imagine what he looks like anymore. Like, I cannot even picture it. But when he walks back, we're obviously gonna look at what he has. This man is driving a really big truck, like a work truck where he has like equipment and everything. We don't understand how we didn't hear that truck. We don't understand what just happened because he didn't talk to us. He didn't say anything. He just switched the tire and like left. It was a very strange experience. It wasn't negative. It wasn't negative at all. We managed to drive the car and we both stopped at this McDonald's that's in Mathis, Texas. And we're just looking at each other like, what the fuck just happened? Like, where did this guy come from? He didn't say anything. He switched it out, put the tire on, got in his truck and left. And we could hear the truck after, like, he left. And we're just looking at each other like, do you think like maybe that was like a guardian angel, or like was it something protecting us? I know that a lot of you may not believe in things like that, but when I tell you, every time I think about that experience, I don't know what to make of it. I don't know what to say because it was just so out of nowhere. Like, why didn't we hear him coming? Why didn't he say anything? He didn't look mean. He didn't look like, oh, he didn't want to talk to us. It was like he got there and he was on a mission to change that tire. Also, like I said, there was no way that I should have gotten out of that accident, like with no bruises, with no scratches, with nothing. When I tell you that that barbed wire had come apart and it was just like hitting my car so hard. My window was open, by the way. It could have easily have hit me as well. And the fact that I managed to just get back on the road like if nothing happened. I know that it could have very well been just like a guy helping out. Maybe he was on a rush. Maybe he had to go to work or something. There was no logos on that truck. It just looked like a work truck. There was so much equipment in there. But yeah, that's what happened. And sometimes I think about that and I just like, for some reason, it just makes me feel like it was something more. Like, was this my guardian angel? What if he wasn't talking because he had already saved me from going and spinning in circles? He was so tired of my ass. Or it could have just been a human who was very nice and really helped us out because we really needed it. So yeah, I just want to hear what you guys have to say about that. I definitely don't use my phone as I drive anymore. Yeah, that bitch stays in my purse. I also don't use cruise control anymore for obvious reasons. I'm wearing these cute glittery earrings that somebody had sent to my P.O. box. Thank you so much. So this guy's name is Manuel and he is a truck driver in Mexico. He says that the job is hard, it comes with a lot of responsibility, but that the pay is worth it. He also says that his job could be a little dangerous because sometimes he has to go through these streets and curves and hills. He has to be very careful. So on this particular night, he had been driving for a very long time and he was in between Tamaulipas and San Luis Potosi. The streets were like in between hills and mountains and it was very dangerous, and to top it all off, it started raining. He admits that when this happened, he was still like fresh. He hadn't had that much experience, so being that it was night, it was raining, he was driving between hills and curves, he got really nervous and a little bit scared. He was also very tired and sleepy. Again, he had been driving for a long time and he knew that he was gonna have to stop somewhere just to get like at least an hour of sleep. He knew that the next truck stop was way too far away. He needed to get sleep because there's no way he was gonna make it there. He made the decision to find a spot where he can just put his truck on the side of the road and get some sleep. He ended up parking his trailer right next to this big hill and it was like in a patch of forest, so he thought it'd be fine. But before he went back into that little cabin to go to sleep, he really had to go to the restroom. He turns his truck off, gets an umbrella and walks towards the foresty part. On his way back to his truck after relieving himself, he noticed that the passenger side door was open and that on the step of how to climb onto that truck, there was footmarks but of a lot of mud. When he left this truck, he knew that both of the doors were closed, so there's no way that that door would have just opened on its own. So now he's terrified that somebody had climbed into his truck. He was really scared, but he started opening the passenger side door more and more, and when he did, he pushed the flashlight into the cabin and asked, "Who's there? Whoever's in here, you need to get out right now. But there was no response. Since he didn't hear anybody, he decided to slowly open up those curtains that lead you to the back cabin where they go to sleep. And before he could open them all the way, he heard a male voice crying and saying, "Save her. Please save her." He said that as soon as he heard that, he just pushed the curtain to the side and there was nobody in there. He was so confused of how nobody was in the cabin because he clearly heard that voice coming from back there. He started getting really scared, and that's also when he noticed something on his bed. There was a baby carrier, really dirty, really old, on the corner of that bed that he didn't have with him. Like, there's no way that could have just appeared out of nowhere. That baby carrier was also broken in some parts, and he said that he just grabbed it and just threw it out of his truck. He had a really bad feeling. He's like, I couldn't stay there. He literally turned on his truck and he decided that he was not gonna go to sleep. He was really nervous about what just happened to him, and also he was really tired. He hadn't been asleep for 20 hours. When he was finally starting to move that trailer to get the hell out of there, he hit something. He reversed the trailer a little bit and got out of it just to see what he had just hit. When he finally managed to see what he had just hit, he realized that there were 3 crosses made out of concrete, and he managed to break 2 of them with the trailer. When he started reading the crosses, he noticed that all 3 of them had said, "Rest in peace, Familia Peña." When he got a closer look, there was one of them that had a picture where it was a woman, a man, and a little baby. It was very obvious that this family maybe had a bad accident there and passed away. Everything that he had just experienced kind of made sense in that moment, and he could swear that the male voice that was crying and saying "save her" was probably of the father who had lost his life with his family, and that it was probably the poor dad who was asking him to save his child. He admits that he started crying in that moment where everything made sense, and it was because he himself was about to be a first-time dad. His wife was back home pregnant. He just can't imagine the amount of pain that the poor father is going through, that even after he has passed, he was still trying to save his family, his baby. He said that this incident, this story that he now shares with everybody, has marked him forever. But what do you guys think? I cannot stop listening to scary stories that happened in Matamoros, which is the Mexico border town, to Brownsville, Texas, which is the valley. I'm from the valley. This could very well just come on over to us. Or is it already here too? Not me scaring myself. Okay, let me tell you the story. So this literally happened in August, last month. This guy says that he is a teenager, he's going to school, and he lives in Matamoros. And on this particular night, he had stayed late at school because they had some sort of battle of the bands going on. He says that normally when he does stay really late, because at this point it was 9 p.m., any other day he would always have his 2 friends with him, but that night he was gonna have to walk home by himself. He admits that he did have a little bit of fear in him walking home alone because the area that he lives in is very dangerous. They're very used to hearing about people being killed. Since he was a little bit nervous walking home alone, he decided to put his earphones in so that he could at least listen to some music to help him relax. Before he actually makes it to the street where his house is, he has to pass by this big stretch of like a lot of grass, and there's no light there, so it's in complete darkness. Thankfully, he said that there was a full moon, so it was illuminating his way, but he was also using his cell phone with the flashlight. So as he starts walking through that big patch of darkness before he gets home, he says that he got this really strange feeling. Starts to feel like dizzy and nauseous and very uncomfortable, like almost like his body was telling him like something was not right. But he also says that he thought that maybe it was because he had forgotten to eat the entire day, so he was just feeling lightheaded because he needed to eat something. Because of that, he was like, oh, I'm just hungry, let me keep on walking. And as he started walking, something made him look to the side where all the grass and bush was, and he explains that he could have sworn that the leaves were moving as if something was there. He doesn't know if it's because his mind was playing tricks on him, but his mind immediately went to, this is a nahual. He admits that he loves listening to scary stories, especially about nahuales, so he was just thinking, I am getting in my head, like I'm overthinking this, but just to make sure, let me walk a little bit faster. So as he started to walk a little bit faster, he accidentally drops one of his earphones on the ground. Obviously, he's no longer listening to the music because his ear thing fell, and when it did, He could have swore to hear something large running behind him. When he turns to look, he says that it looks like a human, but not quite like a human. Like, it was a lot larger. He was looking straight at this thing, and this thing was looking right back at him, and he got so scared that his body was literally frozen in fear. Then what felt like forever, something inside of him just like reacted. He grabbed his headphone, started running towards his house as fast as he could. As he's running, he feels like the road is getting longer and longer, and that he was never gonna be able to make it to all those houses. And he even dropped his water bottle. He did not stop to pick it up. He did not care at that point. He wouldn't even look back, but he explains that he could hear something large running after him, and that it even sounded like pieces of clothing would hit the ground, and it was just like running and running. And he knows that no small pet animal would make that big of a sound. He kept running until he found the first post of light, where he can actually see that there was 3 men standing outside of a house, and he ran straight to them. He makes it to those 3 guys. He's obviously panting, he's scared, he's nervous, he's shaking, and these men are like, what's going on? What are you running from? What's going on? Like, tell us. He managed to catch his breath and tells them what exactly he saw and what was following him. The second that he tells these 3 guys what had happened, what was following him, what it looked like, all of them heard this loud scream, and it sounded like it was a woman. The scream was so loud that he almost felt like his head was gonna explode, and that the other men experienced the same thing. They immediately tell him, get in the house. They all ran into that house. He did not even know these people, and went into that house with them. Once they were all inside, he said that he felt even more scared, because he's like, what is happening? Like, what is going on? What is this? The men just started praying, and they started praying over him too. Like, they would touch his head. One of the older gentlemen started talking to him and said, hey, I just want to let you know that I think that whatever was outside had already been watching you before this night. I think it wanted to take you, and I have no idea how you managed to get away from it. They all warned him that there's a lot of people who do not dare pass by that patch of darkness in the middle of the night, because they have already heard stories about what happens there. Some other guy was like, this thing saw you alone tonight, and I bet you they thought it was going to be easy to take you. He didn't even know what to say, because he was just very scared, and they told them just to wait it out here, because it wouldn't be a good idea for him to go out there, being that it's probably still out there waiting for him to get out of that house. He managed to calm himself down a little bit, and that's when the guys started talking to him and explained to him that that thing had been in that area for a very long time, that even when they were children, they had heard stories about that thing. When they were children, there had been a lot of disappearances in that area, but because of how bad the area was, they would just think it was like criminal type of situations where people are being kidnapped and they never see them again. But whoever lived there knew that there was something out there taking people. The people who have seen this and experienced this and had gotten away explain this entity, or like being, as looking like a wolf or like a really big dog, except that it stands on its hind legs. And that even at some points when it's standing, it does kind of look like a human, but there's just something really off about it. One of the people who described this being also said that even though it looked like the body of an animal, that the face looks like a man. He said that when he heard that, he just couldn't believe it, because that's exactly what he had seen as well. He waited it out for like 30 minutes, and then he was like, I need to go home, but I'm so scared. Is it possible that you can just stand outside the door and just watch me to get to my house? Like, you don't have to come with me, but just make sure I get home. And the gentleman agreed. Thankfully, he did make it home that night. He hasn't experienced anything like that since, but he says that he feels very lucky that he got away, because from the sounds of it, not a lot of people had gotten away from that thing. He still goes to school, he still stays there very late for the battle thingies of the band, and he takes a different route home. Yeah, he is not going back through there. But what do you guys think that was? Because I'm not gonna lie, it kind of does sound like a wall, but I need to hear what you guys think. Today I'm wearing some cutesy little pumpkin earrings I got from TJ Maxx. Anyway, I am again translating a story from Spanish to English that happened in Matamoros, you know, right across the border, right there. I can be there in minutes. If you imagine these stories in your head the way I do, this might fuck you up. I thrifted this shirt for $3. Is this not the best? Like, I live in the valley, but I want it to be fall so much, so I have no long sleeve, because if I did, I would die of a heat stroke. Fall shirt. Let me just read the story. So this guy is sharing the story, but this started off with his mom when his mom was 15 years old. So in 1985, this family moves from Mexico City to Matamoros because they bought this really big land. They decided to move to Matamoros because they were going to be working in the United States. So every day they would be crossing to the US and then going back home at nighttime. Because her family would obviously cross over for work, she would be home alone a lot of the times. She did have 2 other sisters that should have been there with her, but because they were older and the parents were not going to come back until late, they took advantage of that to go hang out with their friends. So on this particular night, she was sitting outside on the steps of her house and she felt like a cold chill that made her look up, and when she did, she thought she saw a man standing near the trees, and as soon as she looked at him, he hid behind one of the trees. Obviously, she's not looking at that tree that this guy had hid behind, and when she was looking at that area, she said that he went from that tree to the one next to it, almost like if he floated to the other side. Once that happens, she's obviously like in shock, still staring at now this different tree that this person is hiding behind, and she explains how this guy just peeks his head and is looking straight at her, but she says that it's like he knew that she was watching him. Like he knew that she was about to see him just peek out his head. This is the part that fucks me up because I imagine it in my head. She swears that when she saw this person's face that he looked like Jesus, and I'm going to make an assumption because they don't really describe it, but I'm assuming that she's probably describing what everybody sees when you see pictures of Jesus, or if you go to a church, the pictures of Jesus. She says that that's what this thing looked like, but she claims that there was just something wrong about it. Like, yeah, he looks like Jesus, but there is something really bad that she got so scared that her legs like stopped working. She literally on all fours dragged herself back into the house, just crying hysterically. After that night, from what she had seen, she would start to have sleep paralysis episodes. The same entity is what I'm gonna call it. The same entity started visiting her during these sleep paralysis episodes. Again, she said it looked like Jesus, but with no legs, it would float. And when she would have these sleep paralysis episodes, he would climb on top of her, like face to face. I hate this part, but she says that he would stick out his tongue and that his tongue was extremely long and he would just be flicking his tongue on top of her. What the fuck? She says that this thing wouldn't necessarily touch her face with the tongue, but every night it would happen over and over. It was almost like his tongue was getting closer and closer to her face. Obviously, she's scared and she decides to tell her family, and her family took her to a witch, a bruja. This witch ends up telling her that she has something on her because somebody did this brujeria on her. Somebody did witchcraft on her, and even the family don't understand why. Like, she's 15. They don't even know who could have done this to her. This witch ends up saying that she can't do anything about it because of the work that was left, but she did tell her that if she was able to find that work in the land, then she can get rid of it. This witch ends up giving her these 2 rods. I think we've all seen them. Like, I think people on live on TikTok use them for like questions where like the 2 rods go like this. Over time, the 15-year-old guy's mom, who's telling us a story, would go all around this land, and the land was huge, with these 2 rods trying to figure out where the work was buried in. Now, years have passed, years, and the guy who's telling us the story, he was at this point 7 years old. He explains that every time they would visit his grandparents' home, he would always have a really strange feeling, and obviously he didn't know anything that had happened throughout the years. He does remember seeing his mom walk around the land with these 2 like things, desperately trying to find something. It got to the point where the mom actually found the area, like the things finally crossed in a certain spot. The problem was that she would try to unbury what was there, and something was either too deep. So it took her so long to finally try to find this thing that at a certain point, whoever had done this, whoever had dug up this brujeria, had taken it out themselves, and she was never able to find it. In my opinion, if this person who did the work was able to get it out themselves, it had to have been somebody close to the family, right? Because how would they even know that after all these years, she was still trying to find that work. They went back to the witch and the witch is like, yeah, it's gone. Like, I don't feel anything in the land anymore. Somebody took it, which also was unfortunate because they could probably do it again. But time has passed. This kid's already like an adult and he says that nothing had ever came back like to target his mom. But anytime they go to the grandparents' home, they still feel something just very negative there. They're not sure if maybe that was there already when they moved in and it just so happened to target his mom, or if somebody really did try to attack his 15-year-old mom. Anyway, what do you guys think? This picture of Jesus with the tongue is like never gonna get out of my head anymore. What about you? আমি স্বপ্ন দেখছি অনেক খারাপ
এলাকার মানুষজন কয় উড়ি নাকি পাগল।
উড়ি ময়না ময়না। আসসালামু আলাইকুম ডাক্তার সাহেব। ওয়ালাইকুম সালাম। দুটো টান দেন। কিছু কিছু সময় বদলাতে হয়।
ভালোবাসাটা দিলাও না, ভালোবাসাটা নিলাও না।
তুই হলো ছোট পাগল, আমি হলাম বড় পাগল।
আলো আধারের ভিড়ে আমি হারিয়ে যাই।
এই বয়সে আমার তিনটা বউ মরে গেল, তাও আবার 1 বছরের মধ্যে। একটা বউরে আমি বাঁচাতে পারলাম না।
কেমনে বাঁচবো? নাম কি? বাঁচে না বেগম। আরে যে তার নামের মধ্যে বাইচে থাকে না, এ জিন্দেগি করে কেমনে বাঁচবো ভাই?
এই শয়তান গোজালা একটু শান্তি মতো মরতে পারলাম না আমি।
কি মাইয়ারে পেটে ধরছিলাম আমি।
আমি কি করব? আমি তো 3বার মরতে গেছিলাম। আল্লাহ আমারে মরণের ভিসাটা বন্ধ করে থুয়ে দিছে, আমারে নেয়ও না। তুই আরেকটা বিয়ে কর।
আপনার গ্রামে কি ভালো মাইয়া আছে?
বউ খাউরা।
মাসে মাসে তার বউ যায় মরি ও মরি। আরে পাগলা জাকলা খুঁজবে এখন আরেকটা পরি।
এই বাড়িতে দুটো মেয়ে আছে, দেখে তো আমি একটি মনে হচ্ছে, খোঁজ নেব।
আপনারা কারে খুঁজেন?
আমরা লোক সরকারি কাজে আসছি।